This chapter will take you through the factors to be considered when selecting and setting up an appropriate landing site for an SAR helicopter. The helicopter crew will conduct a full airborne reconnaissance of the landing site prior to landing. During the reconnaissance, several factors will be used as guidance. Search and rescue team members should use the same guidance when selecting a landing site. If available, an area of at least 21 meters by 21 meters should be chosen. However, it may be possible for the aircraft to land in a smaller area if considered safe to do so by the helicopter crew. The site can be of any shape, provided the overall size is appropriate, and, ideally, the longest axis should be orientated into wind. This will afford the helicopter the safest approach and departure path. By preference, the helicopter crew will try to fly the approach, landing, and takeoff pointing into the wind. However, if it is not possible due to field shape, obstructions, or turbulence, then the aircraft can be maneuvered out of wind in light wind conditions. As well as the immediate landing site being clear of obstructions and hazards, the area surrounding the landing site should also be considered. The area should be clear of vertical obstructions that may impede the approach or departure path of the aircraft. Examples of these are pylons and wires, tall buildings, trees, and masts. Areas downwind of high ground, including steep terrain, will be turbulent in strong winds and should be avoided if possible. Advise the aircraft of any hazards at the site, including significant obstructions such as steep terrain or large buildings. Furthermore, consideration should be given to how the aircraft will affect people and livestock, with particular attention being paid to the effects of downwash and noise. The surface should be firm enough to support the helicopter. Soft or boggy ground can be hazardous to the aircraft, although the crew can elect to not fully land and go light on the wheels. This involves maintaining some power to the rotors, but can result in a strong downwash, which can affect personnel outside the aircraft. The surface of the site should be clear of objects that may damage the aircraft, such as large or sharp rocks and fence posts. FOD, or foreign object debris, consists of litter, loose items of clothing, and unsecured equipment, and presents a risk to the aircraft and people on the ground. To avoid items being sucked into the aircraft engines or disturbed by downdraft, sites should be cleared and equipment secured prior to the aircraft landing. Although the aircraft can land on slopes of up to 10 degrees, the landing site should be as flat as possible. Rising ground above the aircraft can pose a hazard to the rotor blades, while personnel approaching the aircraft from areas of sloping ground should be aware that the normal height clearance could be significantly reduced. Smoke flares are extremely useful for indicating to the helicopter crew the location of the landing site, the wind direction, and possibly of turbulence. Ideally, the smoke should be released in a clear area so as to ensure the overall wind conditions are accurately reflected. Only smoke-type flares should be used, not projectile flares. It's important to consider the accessibility of the landing site and aircraft for other emergency vehicles. The offloading of a casualty to an ambulance is one example. Landing site security and control of access to the public should be considered throughout the period of time the aircraft is operating at the site. Bystanders should be kept at a safe distance to ensure they pose no threat to the aircraft and are not affected by the helicopter downwash. By night, all of the above considerations apply, although extra vigilance has to be exercised in order to ensure an accurate assessment of the landing site is made. Initially, flashing lights on emergency vehicles or handheld strobe lights can be used to aid easy identification of the site. Once the aircraft is on final approach, lights that could dazzle the pilot must be switched off. Flashing and bright lights can have an adverse effect on night vision devices, or NVDs, operated by the crew. However, torches or dim lights can be left on and can assist the pilot by providing visual references. They should not, however, be pointed towards the aircraft. Crossed headlights from vehicles can be used to identify and illuminate the landing site.